All right, 16.3. Okay, unlike the other two open workouts so far, this is not a workout where the best of the best will just automatically rise to the top. Because it's a shorter workout with much smaller margin for error, the best at strategy are going to rise to the top here, and that's just the nature of the workout. So this is a really important one to do everything perfectly. All right, so we got a lot to talk about here. Eric's going to start by talking about bar muscle ups.
Yeah, so there are a couple key points with the bar muscle up that are going to help you out. And mind you, we're running this strategy through assuming you have bar muscle ups. If you don't have bar muscle ups, then we're going to talk about something completely different as far as your pacing. But for this video, we're going to stick to bar muscle ups. So one thing, if you barely have bar muscle ups, you're really going to want to focus on having maybe a little bit of a narrower grip than you're used to. It's going to help with your strength and your turnover. You want to make sure your wrist position is not under the bar, but at about a 45, or if you can, even a little closer to parallel with the bar. And that's going to really just determine on how good your grip strength is. But yes, you want to make sure you're holding the bar in this direction versus here. It's going to help with that turnover as you're coming over the bar. So make sure you don't let your hands slide up underneath.
And then kind of piggybacking what Eric's saying there as far as their starting position, as you turn over and you focus on getting your elbows through, it's super important that the distance from your knuckles to your elbow is just one long lever, meaning there's no give in your wrist. Once you start to turn over, it's all going to stay very neutral, okay? If you try to turn over on your wrist, you're going to get caught behind the bar, okay? So make sure you're turning over with a very solid, braced, neutral wrist.
Yeah, the wrist has to come over with the elbow at the same time. After that, you really want to make sure you're thinking about actively pulling the elbows up. So there are a lot of muscles, tiny little stabilizer muscles, scapular muscles, posterior deltoid, a lot of things that are being utilized to turn the elbows over that we're not really used to doing on a regular basis. So make sure that you're thinking about the second you kip and you feel that weightlessness, you have to actively pull over. Don't just assume that 6 minutes into the workout, your natural pulling strength and hips are going to just get you to flip over the bar every time. There's going to be a point where you have to be pulling around. As far as ripping, you need to be preventative with that, thinking about wrist wraps, some tape around your hands, maybe have a towel that your friend can hold to, if you're a sweaty person, wear some wristbands to help absorb that sweat so it's not running into your palm. Your friend can toss you a towel. You just want to make sure you stay dry so your hands can slide over the bar. The little note about no tape, that's no tape on the bar. The last thing you want is to get blisters from having a very abrasive texture on that bar. Make sure the bar is really slick. It should be dry. Everything should be dry so it can slide very easily without causing blisters.
Yeah, so the tape helps you on toe to bar and sometimes on chest to bar pull-ups. But on a workout where you're rotating 180 degrees, it's the opposite of what you want, especially when you're trying to rotate with a neutral wrist.
Yeah. And the last thing is you want to get some momentum from the beginning. So the most important part, with a muscle up on the rings or just a bar muscle up is obviously that arch position, getting into that full extension. Make sure you keep your feet together. Don't bend at the knee. Glutes are going to activate, so you're getting in this nice arch position. Well, it doesn't make sense to jump up to the bar and then have to swing your legs out and swing through and generate that. So you want to have the bar a little bit in front of you. You're going to jump towards the bar. Your hips are going to go through, and then you're going to continue up into your bar muscle up. As far as snatch, this is going to be a grip workout, all right? No matter what anyone tells you, unless they've done it, trust me, it's going to be a grip workout. All of our athletes that have done it last night and this morning have said their forearms were smoked. So you want to use a hook grip, and you want to have a very loose hook grip. So your fingernail and your thumb should be right on that middle finger, and you want to make sure that that's all that's really gripping tight. Okay, so your palm, if someone looks behind you while you're holding the bar, your palm should be open. They shouldn't be closed. Don't be gripping with your pinky and holding tight. Make sure you're nice and loose. We recommend really emphasizing that pop with the hip. So normally in barbell classes, we don't want this looping thing going on. For this workout, it's light. I don't care how you get the bar overhead. I would use some hip pop, bring the bar in, pop the hip, and use that momentum to help bring the bar overhead so you're not having to use more of your shoulders, more of your pulling muscles to get the bar up.
So on this workout, on the snatch, you're going from a pulling motion to a pressing motion. On the muscle up, you're going from a pulling motion to a pressing motion. So the more you can assist your upper body with your legs, the better. Okay, so use your legs on the snatch as much as you can and use the hips on the muscle up as much as you can.
Yeah, your strategy that you used on the 15 power snatch, 30 double under workout, it's not the same workout at all. Okay, so more legs in this one, less upper body. I personally do not recommend doing muscle snatches. I think unless you are a very, very strong guy, you're going to tax yourself and you're going to start failing bar muscle ups if you're just muscling the bar up the whole time. Use your legs.
If you decide to do a muscle snatch though, however, going hand in hand with the under gripping, as you're pressing out, kind of open up your hands a little bit, and then as your elbows turn over, re-grip the bar. If you're not going to do a muscle snatch, which is what we recommend, which is actually going to be a little bit faster, on the way down, make sure that you're relaxing during the turnover too. If you have big hands, try to keep a hook grip the entire time to make that turnover easier for you.
And the last thing is a quick turnover. So quick lockout rather. So this turnover of the bar and lockout, you're going to see a lot of people wanting to catch their breath and rest. Personally, I would just get it back to the hip, breathe, bang the ground, and go up again. I think if you're spending a lot of time here, kind of stabilizing, breathing, you're going to start to wear out those shoulder muscles, and that's going to be one area that you want to try to maintain. Before we go over the warm-up, let's go over just quick strategy. This is all going to be transition time. So for those of you that can do 30 bar muscle ups, and this is not a bar muscle up workout, it's going to be just pacing and speed at your cycle rate on your snatches. This workout's going to be made or broken in how fast your transitions are. So you want to make sure that your chalk ups, and a lot of that is mental for people. They just feel like I gotta have more chalk, new chalk. It's going to help me. The chalk's not going to help you do a bar muscle up. The only thing that chalk's going to do is keep your hands dry, so you don't pull skin and get blisters. So if your hands are dry, don't get more chalk. You don't need it. If you're a sweatier person, maybe you do, but limit it. Have someone standing there with it so you can just put it on real quick and jump up. Do not be walking over to a chalk bucket, leaning over, putting more chalk on. Then you got to get mentally prepared to do the next rep. Before you know it, that's 15 seconds.
If you do start to feel your hands ripping, stop. Okay, you want this workout to be repeatable so you can get your best score. So if you feel like they're about to give, stop, reassess how the workout went, and figure out a better strategy for the second run through. However, if you do rip, if you visibly rip, you got to keep going. This might be your only attempt, so go at full speed.
So we kind of talked about this, just being fast at the barbell, quick transitions. If you're going to breathe, you better breathe before the bar muscle up so you don't fail any. But the second you drop off that pull-up bar, you need to walk right to your barbell and start going. Breathe throughout. So there's a lot of times where high-intensity movements, people kind of hold their breath for a second, and because this is a full sprint, imagine trying to do Fran with your, holding your breath too much. You have to be breathing. It's a lightweight. You should be focused on. I don't know if you can hear my breathing. I was trying to make it loud, but basically think about continuous breathing throughout the whole movement. Practice these movements so that you can find out where it feels natural to breathe in and breathe out. The entire workout, this is a 90+% effort for the entire duration. This isn't like previous workouts where we're pacing at 75% to sustain, or we're trying to go for negative splits. This is pick a high intensity pace and you have to maintain it the entire time. A number of other coaches are kind of using the analogy of a 1,500 meter row sprint. So, or say sprint, but your 1,500 meter row, or it pretty much is a sprint for them. So if you think of it as that duration, that'll help you out. It really is that level of effort for 7 full minutes.
If you have bar muscle ups, what this means for you is once you get to the point in the workout where you've done hopefully 5, 6, maybe into your 7th round, but you've still got a couple minutes left, when you start to get a feel for your threshold for bar muscle ups, then as long as you have plenty left in the tank, you should sprint. As soon as you know that you can sprint to the finish without feeling your bar muscle ups,
do it.
Then you should sprint.
The last thing on strategy is we tried a couple different approaches. We had Chandler go last night, and we urged her to go as fast as possible to make up time on the power snatches. So she did unbroken the entire time, 10 reps. She's shorter, really quick and explosive, so her cycle rate was insanely fast. Then she gave herself the rest and the time to do singles on the bar muscle up. This morning, we took a different approach. We tried to save the grip a bit more, tried to reduce how much you're taxing that upper body, and we had people do 4-3-3 or breaking it up even more. And what we found is those people actually beat Chandler as far as her ability to go unbroken on the power snatch. So Chandler's a very, very good athlete. What I think that taught us is that breaking up the the power snatches is going to make a lot of sense for those of you that are going to be doing singles on bar muscle up. So if you're not very proficient, if you're not doing sets of 3 every time, then I highly recommend, we've talked about this, we recommend that you break those up a little earlier so that you can continue to have the strength for the bar muscle ups later on in the rounds.
As your bar muscle ups start to kind of get to the end where you're about to start failing, or they become much more challenging, instead of standing on the ground and looking at the bar, get that first rep done and take your breath on top of the barbell or on top of the pull-up bar, and then come down into your next rep when you're ready.
All right, warm up. So a couple of things you're going to want to do. Because there's a lot of hinging in this, and because the majority of the reps are going to be accumulated on the power snatch, you've got to make sure your hamstrings are opened up. A lot of people, when they bend over into a good morning, they can only go about 45 degrees before any further starts to round that back. So imagine doing that 100 times. If somehow you get 10 rounds, if you're doing 100 power snatches and you're using, you've got those tight hamstrings and you're using a little bit of that low back, it's going to burn out really fast on you. Deltoids and pecs are just going to limit your ability to get that turnover, so stretching those out. And then the big thing is activating your upper back. So any type of upper body pulling motion, like a pull-up, muscle up, you're going to really need a lot of activation there. So posterior delt, dumbbell rows, Pendlay row,
A ring row with the barbell across the J hook.
scapular retraction, anything that's going to open up your pecs and activate that upper back. And then because the bar muscle up is basically a pull down, you can do a banded lat pull down. You can do anything that's going to activate the lats. You can lean out and bring a bar out and pull it in and hold it. Anything that's going to activate this and get you to be able to pull the bar to the floor. And then the last thing for a lot of us, especially guys, we lack that intro rotation. So you want to do a partner PNF stretch where they basically
Lying supine on the ground.
Yeah.
We've done it before in the warm-ups where they'll have his arm at a right angle, and the partner will be pushing it down to the ground. Because in addition to pulling and pressing, you need to have explosive and violent internal and external rotation of the shoulder joint during that turnover. So you want to stretch the muscles that are pulling you in, and you want to activate the muscles that are pulling you in as well.
Yeah. All right. So the last thing, as far as our warm-up, what we recommend doing is you need to prime the system that you're going to be using. So you're going to have a high heart rate. It does not make sense to practice your power snatches in your warm-up without feeling that heart rate. So we want you to get on the assault bike or a rower, preferably the assault bike so you're not over taxing the hinging position early. But get on the assault bike and sprint about 5 calories at like 80%, and then immediately go to some power snatch, do some touch and go doubles, triples, nothing too crazy as far as reps. 2 or 3 is probably good, and build in weight throughout these rounds. You are going to work up to 70, 75, maybe even 80% for your last double of your power snatch. So it should be fairly heavy. You want to make sure that when you go into this workout, you feel like that bar is a feather. And then the last thing you're going to do every 2 minutes is 1 bar muscle up or a couple chest to bar pull-ups. Basically start working that position. I can speak from experience. My first 10 bar muscle ups ache. Things hurt, hands, grip, stuff is just like in your head. It's going to affect your performance. After you do about 5 rounds, maybe 6 rounds, so every 2 minutes for 10 or 12, and you get that grooved, by the time the workout starts, you should feel very nice and loose and opened up, so nothing's going to be bothering you during the workout.
All right, now we're going to get into some technical videos about the actual movements and give you some efficiency tips there.
Yep.